always delayed. Always
Oh,
delayed.
classic Discord.
Classic. We are here. Episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 already of the story continues. It feels just like yesterday. We were at WrestleMania watching Cody hoist the title and with a hat. And then, a short while after that, I said, you know what? I know my calling. I know what I'm going to do for content. We're going to make a podcast. We're already 7 episodes in, and we just watched Clash at the Castle 2024. I am joined by none other than the same man that went to Mania with me and has been watching all the PLEs and been, I think, the leading rotating host with now 4 episodes. I want to say you've been on 4.
I think so, yeah, about 4.
3 or 4, yeah. Mr. Night Sky, welcome in. How are you doing today, and how are you feeling just in general after watching that PLE?
Oh man. Well, first off, there was no castle. I think that was like
this
the biggest. There's the biggest disappointment of the entire night was that there was no castle in sight. But besides that, I'm feeling good. Thanks for having me on another fantastic episode of The Story Continues podcast.
Yes.
And man, I gotta say, like, I really enjoy watching these PLEs, especially like with you, because I know we aren't able to watch them like directly as they air live, but it's good because we get to watch them later together. But the only thing is you have to stay off of social media the entirety of the day if you do that, which is kind of a sacrifice because like I'm so used to like opening up Twitter or Instagram. So like I did that a couple times today, and I saw the WWE thing pop up. Like, oh no, I don't want to look. I'm not looking. So it's a bit of a challenge, but besides that, I had a good time watching it. Excited to talk about it, and I would like to apologize to our audience out there. My microphone does not sound the greatest right now, but that's okay. Just for one episode only, so just bear with me. I'll let Matt RDK here do all the talking tonight.
Just one episode. This man's over in his third home on the gaming headset. And it's really cool because, again, for viewers that don't know, my boy here was not a wrestling fan pretty much at the start of the year. Like, I mean, maybe like knew of it, like, The Rock was around building up to WrestleMania, but you weren't really a fan. But then when we decided, I don't know, probably back in February, maybe even late January, I was like, hey, we can make this Mania shit happen. Like, it's in Philly, like, I'm looking at tickets, like, we can do it. That's when you really kind of hopped on board. So before we dive into talking about the episode, how do you feel like, all this time later, it's been what now? 4 months? 4 strong months?
Really? Oh my god.
I would say about 4-ish months strong of being like a hardcore wrestling fan. Maybe 3 months.
Yeah.
But how do you feel? Like, do you still feel invested?
I am. I'll tell you, I am very invested in it, and I've mentioned it multiple times before in other episodes. But like, I treat this now as I would any other sport. Like, I have notifications on on Twitter, like for any big announcements. I'm always checking the highlights from Raw, from SmackDown, even now a little bit of NXT sometimes.
Oh, he's dappling.
It's only because we're waiting for a certain someone to show up very soon, which here's hoping he does this Tuesday during the 25 Battle Royal. That'd be really sick though if that happens. But we'll get to that a little bit later. Sorry, apologies.
Always sick.
No, I'm not sick. I'm not sick anymore. Relax. But no, yeah, I really am still as invested as I was even before WrestleMania, which is great. And it's always cool just to kind of see what storylines are going on or what bookings are made, and always love seeing the memes and stuff online too. So far it's still hanging strong.
Hell yeah. And it was yet another fun PLE. As you guys probably saw in episode 6 when I had my boy Rivera on, we were hyping up this PLE. Obviously going into this was Drew McIntyre's night, but there was quite a pretty solid card. Like, I think all 5 matches were very anticipated. Like, I would say every single match had a star you wanted to watch or a storyline that was going really well. And I personally definitely did enjoy the pay-per-view. I said pay-per-view. I know the WWE's PLE, and then other wrestling companies are pay-per-view, so I gotta say PLE.
PLE.
I enjoyed the PLE, but I mean, initial thoughts. We literally just watched it. As Knight said, I mean, these international PLEs are awesome because the crowd is so invested, but the sacrifice is definitely that they're on at like noon for us Eastern time and American folk. So yeah, it's the same thing. I'm over here like, oh shit, I almost spoiled myself. Like, you gotta hop immediately off social media. But it's a sacrifice we make for a great crowd. I mean, ever since they did the Puerto Rico PLE, you know, 2
Backlash,
years ago
yeah.
now with Bad Bunny, like I think WWE really realized, oh, this shit's gonna work. Like the crowd's into it. The crowd just enjoys it more because they don't get, you know, weekly Raws and SmackDown like Chicago, Boston, Philly like we do. We're spoiled with them. So these countries really, really enjoy them, take advantage of them, and I think that's the perfect transition into how electric Scotland was for this first match, which was a little bit of a surprise because I know at the end of episode 6, Rivera and I were hoping that they let Drew McIntyre main event. But this is going to be the first time that Cody has not main evented a PLE as champion. And honestly, probably in a long while. Cody's been main eventing every PLE recently. So it was a bit of a surprise for them to say, welcome to Clash of the Castle. And what's the first thing you hear? You don't want none. AJ Styles comes out and we're like, oh shit, it's time for the I Quit match. So Mista, what did you think of Cody Rhodes, AJ Styles 2 I Quit?
Well, I'll tell you what, I really did not expect them to go back to AJ Styles, even like before all this too, like because you know he pulled a Mark Henry, you know, he was doing that his whole, they're gonna like, oh, like I love being a part of this. I love the crowd back in Lyon, France, which by the way, that is still probably the best crowd ever. I know we're still gonna be talking about that thing from like years down the line because that Backlash was phenomenal. Good one. But you know, good class. But but the fact that turns heel and says no, like that's it, fuck you, Cody. You're a piece of shit, and I need that belt anyway, or that championship, I should say. So I mean, I was surprised, but I definitely enjoyed it. I always wondered like, because you see a lot of these feuds, like they build upon it, but then they go for a long time, and it's not so much like bang 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 like it's been with Cody, which I could tell a lot of people weren't necessarily happy with because they kind of felt like, oh, what's gonna happen? Like in between every PLE, they're gonna start a new feud, then that's gonna end after the PLE, and then the next one, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So it was cool, kind of going back to AJ. I think AJ Styles he's got a lot of showmanship. He's definitely, you know, he's a seasoned veteran. He's been here since for a long time. And so to have that match be the first one to start off right at Clash of the Castle, I think that was kind of sick. It was like, oh shit, like we're really getting into this. But initial thoughts real quick. I know you can do a little deep dive on it, but I liked kind of like this time around, since it's an I Quit match, their rules were way different this time. It's not so much you get pinned or whatever. It's the other opponent has to say verbally I quit. And that means you could do anything to them, no rules, but you could use whatever you want. And so we saw a lot of interesting stuff being used during this match. And for a minute, I kind of thought, it was like, wait a second, like they're gonna make Cody quit? There's no way. But then, well, you know, we'll just talk about it. Let's just talk about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it was definitely a believable match. Like, it definitely was gruesome. I mean, both guys were bleeding. Cody was bleeding early on, and then AJ at one point, he had Cody in some kind of submission, and you could see like something like burst like on Cody's head. It was like an egg or something, and it just like started bleeding. I was like, oh shit. Or maybe it might have been reversed. Maybe it was AJ that had the egg. But like one of them had like a literal egg that just like burst under the pressure. So it was a pretty gruesome match. You know, growing up, one of the I Quit matches I always remember is John Cena and Batista back in the day. Like, just I Quit matches have always been rare. Like, I think Michael Cole even dropped a stat at the start. He's like, this is the 25th ever I Quit match, like, in WWE. So, like, they have always kept them very rare. But I think, and I do actually want to see what you think about this as a newer fan, because sometimes the I Quit matches are hit or miss. Like, at least the finale, where you just kind of have the mic and you're like, do you quit? Do you quit? It can get a little cheesy. Yeah. And there definitely were some times, like, even I was making fun of it while we were watching it. Cody was like, absolutely not. And I was like, oh, he sounded like the fucking, the you want to go to the Four Seasons Hotel? Mother.
I would love to, mother.
I would love to go to the Four Seasons Hotel. Like, after Cody had said, absolutely not, like, every time the ref stuck the mic, like, in one of their faces, I was like, absolutely not. I will not give up at this moment. So, like, these I Quit matches, they can, again, just get a little cheesy in that sense, but I don't think this match necessarily was cheesy. But the point I want to bring up is the finale. Obviously, Cody did go on to retain, and he won by holding the steps over his head, about to, like, literally chuck them at AJ, decapitate him, but then AJ says, I quit. Before I give my point, I want to hear, like, how did you feel about that? Were you like, oh shit, he's gonna kill AJ, or do you feel like it was kind of abrupt and like, like okay, it ended?
Well, yeah. Now that you mention it, like some matches, like for at least most of it too, it's one fall, pin the person, and then 3 count, and boom, you win. So if there's something that isn't necessarily that, it's gonna be a lot harder, in my opinion, to try to like at least sell it and make it believable.
Yeah.
Because and there's so many different variants of like those types of matches. Like we've seen all sorts of things. We've seen street fight. We've seen all sorts of different like tag team matches or whatever. You name it, all sorts of stuff. But I think the way that ended, I wasn't like losing my mind over it. I was just like, oh man, you kind of wimped out there a second there, AJ. Because you're sitting there and he's like, yeah, no, I don't quit. And then it's like, oh, I quit. Like, Matt over here sent me a meme like right afterwards. There was a picture of SpongeBob. He had his hands up and the stairs were falling. I was like, I quit. I'm done. So I think at least for that, it was a little bit like, oh, come on, man, really, you quit for that? But then even afterwards too, after they announced that Cody still threw the stairs at him, so I was just like, oh shit. Like, you didn't expect that from him, but I just think the overall, I don't think that ending kind of ruined the entire match. I think that's kind of the point of it, is that the entire match, they're going at it. They're using everything. They've used kendo sticks, tables, handcuffs, a belt at some point, chains. Like, you're basically using everything there. So their bodies are tired by the end of it, and so you kind of have to figure out a way to kind of like end this right now, so that way we both can go home, essentially.
For sure. I definitely, like I said, I thought it was a great match. Strong opening match. I mean, this easily could have been the main event. But while Cody and AJ already main evented at Backlash, it was only fair to give Drew the spotlight for the main event. But yeah, I did want to bring that up because there was one match like in AEW a couple years ago. And it was like, pretty much the premise was like it was a steel cage. And the point was you could either like lose by pinfall, submission, or you could quit. Like, you could just verbally quit. And it was Chris Jericho and MJF. And MJF was, like, about to throw Chris Jericho off of the steel cage, which, like, didn't look that intimidating. You were like, oh, okay, like, we've seen so many people way back in the day. Undertaker flung Mankind off the Hell in a Cell. Like, we've seen it before. Shane McMahon jumps off big-ass stuff all the time. Jeff Hardy's done it. You name it. So it wasn't that intimidating, and then like Chris Jericho's teammate like, I quit, don't do it, don't kill Chris, and it just felt so cheesy. Like, you were like, that's how the match ends, and that's kind of what this match gave me, like that ending. Like, AJ Styles is taking a beating, and then it's the steel steps that like cause him to quit. So I mean, yeah, like, I don't know, that's just, it's hard to like, there was one point in the match when like Cody passes out. And AJ's like, I win. And Dolph's like, no, he has to say I quit. So it's like, it is a hard concept to pull off because, yeah, it might just be cheesy at the end of the day. But, I don't know, I have, like, mixed reviews. I think, like you said, the ending didn't really ruin the match for me. The match was just so strong on its own that eventually, yeah, their bodies were just giving out. Like, it was time to move on and end the match. Yeah. But, yeah, it's just risky. I do see why the I Quit match is so seldomly used, just because of that, like, how do we finish this match type of deal. But yeah, I think it was a strong match. We all knew Cody likely was not losing, and then as Rivera and I had alluded to last episode, predicting that Cody would win, I think it would be cool with this whole TNA thing, and as you have referenced earlier, the possibility maybe Joe Hendry showing up at NXT. I think it would be cool if AJ shows up in TNA where he first started and all that, and he goes on a little run there. We'll see. There's so many possibilities. I do think this first match went exactly how most expected. It was a strong match, and yeah, the story continues for Cody Rhodes.
It's funny you say that too, because I know, like, it was even for a brief moment because it was kind of in between, but then after Cody wins, he starts walking out, and all of a sudden you see good old Solo Sikoa.
No aura.
Just cruising out from behind the entryway, and boom, he's there. And then he starts beating up on Cody with was it Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa.
Yep.
And they just start going at him, and then all of a sudden you hear that beautiful sound, I voices. And then you see Randy and Kevin Owens both charging out, and then they start beating them up. and then ultimately they save Cody. But something interesting that I saw like right after on Twitter. So the cool part thing is like as soon as like a PLE ends, I will go right to social media and see what people are saying. But they're saying, and there's a shot right there too. I don't know if you caught it. But after they save them and like Randy's checking on Cody to make sure he's okay, he actually looks at the championship like for a little bit. He's like saying like, "You all right, dude?" And then he's looking at it for like a brief moment, and then he looks back at Cody. So I could see that potentially being set up as well. I think they're going to give it a little time before that. But I think one of the next big matches of Cody's defense, if you will be against Randy Orton.
Yep.
I think that's the plan.
You actually gave me the perfect transition because, as you guys know, I'm trying to cut down on these podcasts a little, so I'm trying to move on to the next match. But before we do, there's 3 developments here that I actually do want to talk about from this match. We already mentioned AJ Styles and TNA. There's 3 things I feel like that are brewing still with Cody Rhodes' storyline primarily. Number 1, I think the most immediate development will be Money in the Bank. I think we were just told what the Cody match will be. I think it's gonna be a 6-man tag match. Cody, KO, Randy Orton versus this new bloodline. I think that's development number 1.
Right.
I think that is just, they're setting it up. Give the bloodline a 3-man tag on a pay-per-view. Randy, KO, Cody. Boom. Plus, it's Money in the Bank. At the end of the day, the focus for that pay-per-view is going to be the 2 Money in the Bank matches. Cody doesn't have to defend the title on that pay-per-view. You'll be fine. Do the tag match. That's development number 1. Development number 2, you already alluded to it. Cody and Randy. Everybody wants it to happen. Ever since Cody first broke into this business, he was a member of Legacy with Randy Orton. He came up with the 2009 bald menace Randy Orton. And, Randy has just seen Cody blossom, become the American Nightmare, become the champion. And at WrestleMania, that's why it was so sweet when Randy had Cody up on his shoulder, kind of just celebrating that moment for Cody. Everybody wants Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes, whether it's going to be at SummerSlam or whether they're going to push it all the way to WrestleMania 41. I do think that's the next development. And now that Cody and Randy will finally be involved in a storyline, this is like the earliest seeds to really start planning that path. I want to predict it's probably a SummerSlam match, just because I'm guessing Gunther will be facing, spoiler alert, Damian Priest, and then Cody will likely be facing Randy, and then that would mean WrestleMania, maybe they do Cody and Rock, although I think most people want Cody and Roman. We'll see how that all develops, but that's development number 2. Development number 3, this is more of a stretch, but it's interesting, because all through Cody's AEW run, the whole premise and why fans turned on Cody was because they wanted Cody to turn heel, and Cody refused. He said, "I am the American Nightmare, I will not turn heel," and the AEW fans literally turned on Cody Rhodes, and Cody Rhodes ends up leaving, comes to WWE, he's the biggest babyface, biggest good guy ever. The whole stairs thing at the end of the match, I don't know if it's just coincidental, maybe he was just mad or whatnot, but maybe they're planning the earliest seeds of Cody Rhodes turning heel in the future. That is not something that your number 1 babyface does. You already win the match, and he hits AJ, a handcuffed AJ Styles with the steps anyways. It's interesting. It may just be it may just be like he was excited in the moment, but it could also be, Triple H loves his storylines and he loves planting the little seeds, especially with the, whole Liv Morgan story recently, like the little bandana that's in her pocket and like them in the background, like walking out together. Triple H loves planting these hints, and I feel like something could be brewing there. For the longest time, Cody's been compared to Homelander, who we all know is kind of like that tragic hero.
True, yeah.
Who like thinks he's like this hero, but he's actually like a huge fucking villain. So yeah, I think that is something else to monitor. But I do think the 2 more immediate developments will be, this presumed 6-man tag at Money in the Bank, and then the whole Randy Cody development. I actually didn't personally even see Randy look at the title, but cinema, man, cinema. Let Triple H, Cody, Randy.
And that's good eyes on you for that, for kind of like dissecting it piece by piece, because I really do like that too, when even it's the smallest thing that can like ultimately tell the biggest story. And especially for how it's being done right now in WWE, I'm really excited to kind of see how this stuff develops. because for at least for Cody, there's so many storylines you can do. There's so much
Yep.
you can do, like him just getting the undisputed WWE Championship. That's a stepping stone in all things. He finished the story, but there's so much more he can do now. There's so many things you can do with him, and ultimately, I do think one day we will see him turn heel. I think it's only a matter of time, but I hope that it doesn't happen for quite a while because you want to see, like I said, other stuff happen with Randy. Could be again with Roman, with Rock. It really all depends. So, but yeah, overall, good opening match, good time. On to the next one, right?
Yes, we will move on to this next match. But my last point.
Oh,
This is gonna be
last
so
one.
quick, so quick.
Let's hear it.
Y'all gotta stop clowning Cody Rhodes, man. I know y'all miss Roman
Ooh.
Reigns. I know you miss the Tribal Chief. Okay, I'll acknowledge him too.
I was a tribal chief.
I like them both. This couldn't have been a more fitting shirt. This was not planned. But Roman did incredible. People are already praising that as one of the best title reigns ever. Cody's having a damn good reign. At least PLE wise, he's put on banger after banger after banger versus
Banger.
AJ Styles versus Logan Paul, and once again versus AJ Styles. He's gonna have a banger match at SummerSlam. If he's in the 6-man tag at Money in the Bank, he's gonna have a banger match. Y'all gotta stop this forced Cody Rhodes hate. If it wasn't Cody Rhodes, you'd be hating on whoever the other guy was to dethrone Roman. Like, Roman Reigns is not gonna be your champion for the rest of your lives. You guys gotta get that through your head. That's the last.
Damn.
That's the last point.
Reach.
But stop. You see this plaque right here, bro? I'll fight for Cody till the end of my life. Cody Rhodes. But the next match was a 6-man tag, which Rivera and I didn't really have too many hopes going into, but I'll say it was actually a very fun match. It was Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair defending their women's tag team championship against Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark and the homecoming of Alba Fire and Isla
Dawn. Yeah, Isla Dawn.
I mean, I thought it was a fun match. It really blew my expectations out the water. But how did you feel about this one?
I liked it too. I think, like I said before, anytime there's like a multi-man brawl type of match, it's really cool to kind of see how they all interact. So like right off the gate, and I've said it before because we've seen it with all the PLEs, but Bianca and Jade, they're like a formidable duo.
Yeah.
So right out of the gate, and a little bit of a spoiler, there's no way you were going to be able to pin them at least.
Yeah.
Right, or at least not in their current form because they're in sync. All their moves are coordinated. Their outfits match essentially, and they've been doing this for quite a minute now too, ever since Jade came to WWE. But they've been so much on the same page, and they're able to win and retain because of that. However, I will say, and we can talk about it a little bit later too, but there are maybe a little bit of signs of hey, you can only be that great for so long before people start to realize the cracks and the slips.
Yep.
An example of that is both of the other teams realized, hey, we don't have to get each other. We don't have to just be everyone for themselves. We can team up against them, and so that's what they started doing. They started attacking Jade more so. They started, throwing Bianca all over the place too. And because of that, you're able to kind of split up that duo and be able to hit them where it counts. And then at that point, even if you aren't able to pin them, you can at least kind of pin the other person too, and then kind of move on from that.
Yeah. No. Well, right off the bat, Bianca, that hair, that shit, we already know that's a weapon. We've seen Bianca use it before.
Yep.
But this was extra weapon.
Oh my god, yeah, the scales in her hair.
The scales that were just falling all over the ring. That was crazy. Bianca, Jade, always, like you said, always on the same page. The movesets were cool. Entrance, always awesome. Jade had a rough match. I mean, I'm a big Jade fan, but I can't hide the fact that she had a couple botches there that were pretty ugly, especially when she goes up on top of the rope and then just kind of fell.
Minus 100 or 1,000 aura.
Minus 1,000 aura was the first thing this man said, and I was like, you're right.
Yep.
She still is newer. I mean, I don't even know if you can say Jade is newer because between
how much time can you give her until she's no longer a rookie?
Exactly. Between all the time she had in AEW with the long streak, then coming over to WWE, and she only debuted officially for WWE at the Royal Rumbles back in January, but that's still 4, 5, 6 months.
Almost half a year.
She still would kind of get a pass as a WWE rookie, but she's definitely gotta, really iron out, just the moves and the performance, because she's an attraction. People look forward to Jade Cargill matches, but unfortunately, he got the pose down. But unfortunately, unfortunately, I do feel like her matches sometimes will struggle because of these slip-ups. She's still making a lot of mistakes and struggling. But, Bianca's there to save the day, and she is a seasoned veteran at this point, and she rarely has any slip-ups. She's able to get it done. This match was fun. As you said, the two other teams were able to team up against Bianca and Jade. I'm surprised. I mean, I know the women's tag division never really has had like a lot of division or buzz, so it's kind of like let's give the title to these two like stars, Jade and Bianca, just to give them some accolades. But I was kind of surprised that they lost so early. I'm not surprised in the fashion that they lost the titles, because like you said, nobody's pinning Jade or Bianca. Especially if they lose the titles. So I was surprised that they lost as early, but I also wasn't surprised in the fashion that they lost. That, I believe it was Zoe Stark who ended up taking the pin, and then the hometown team won. I had actually told Knight as we were watching the match, or before the match, I was like, I think we're getting Bianca and Jade at SummerSlam. Like, I feel like that's gonna be a one-on-one match. So we'll see. Now that they've lost the titles, maybe the cracks start forming, one of them turn heel. Presumably it would be Jade, because I doubt they're going to turn their female John Cena, Bianca Belair, into a bad guy. But you never know. Maybe they do a Bianca heel run. But yeah, I mean, that's really all I got to say from this one. Not too much analysis. I feel like it was the same for what was the last pay-per-view? Not Backlash. Was it Backlash?
No, King and Queen.
King and Queen of the Ring. I feel like it was the same for King and Queen of the Ring. They had defended the titles there, and it was like they did good. Congrats, it was a fun match. But I don't know, just the whole tag division. Not even just for women. I feel like even for men, like just the tag division in WWE, men and women, has always been just kind of forgotten about. I mean, and Miz, like Awesome Truth, and then Theory and Grayson Waller, they haven't been on a PLE since WrestleMania. I was gonna
say, when do we even remember where they were at? I mean, it's mostly either just on SmackDown and Raw for that part, and like that's, and honestly, that you break a good point, because I think all the tag team stuff we've seen has just been the women's division on PLEs. And whether that's because you have stars in Jade and Bianca to have those titles, it makes more sense to do that. Because I feel like it would have to be some sort of really crazy opponent for either Austin Theory and Grayson Waller or Awesome Truth, right? Because you can't just kind of throw scrubs at them. If that makes sense. Like if there was anything, maybe you could do like Judgment Day versus Awesome Truth. That could be something there you could do. Try to have them regain the titles back, or some other duo. But I think, at least for the most part, I don't really see any matchups in the near future. Could be at SummerSlam. I feel like that's a good kind of PLE event to have them defend those, because they want to get a chance in the spotlight. I don't think Money in the Bank, probably not. So I think that's probably their next step for what they're going to do for that. But just to kind of say the same thing as you for that women's tag team defense. Not really anything crazy, but we have new champions, so they got dethroned essentially. We'll see how that storyline continues. Shout out to the hometown heroes for Scotland. Very good job by them, and congrats.
Congrats. It was a good pop. Definitely the crowd was into the surprise. I don't think anyone really expected Jade and Bianca to lose, so it was good shock value. As a spoiler alert, it was the only title change of the night, so it was nice to at least have some change after PLE. But yeah, I think it'll be the two developments from this one will definitely be to see how this title reign goes, if they can build some momentum for any of these WWE tag team divisions, or if it'll still just kind of be like, oh yeah, there's tag team champs, by the way. And definitely the highlight will definitely be seeing how Jade and Bianca carry on from this. But moving right along, we had our third match of the night, one-on-one, as I've deemed him in one of the past podcast episodes, Mr. PLE, Sami Zayn, against Chad Gable.
Chad Gable.
Cinema storytelling in this match.
Oh my gosh.
Multiple storylines with Otis, Maxine Dupree, Sami Zayn, and Chad Gable themselves involved. A great just feat of wrestling. Chad Gable is just talented as hell, and that one suplex where Chad like lands on like the top of his head.
Yeah,
he's paralyzed. He's dead. He's dead. But yeah, once again, Sami Zayn, just absolute great storytelling in another PLE match. This is why I've deemed him Mr. PLE. Retains it, continues on, and I'm interested to see, is that it? Like at the end, Sami Zayn says, no more. That's it. No more opportunities for Chad Gable. But if anyone's going to beat Sami Zayn for the title, it's got to be Chad Gable. So you can only assume maybe they're pushing it to SummerSlam. Maybe it'll be like a Money in the Bank. I don't know. But I don't envision it being Chad's last opportunity. Maybe he has to do like a one-on-one match with Otis first and like get rid of the Alpha Academy and fully be on his own to win. But I do want to hear your thoughts on this match. I enjoyed it, and I thought, once again, Sami Zayn showed up.
Agreed. And I think Sami Zayn's definitely becoming one of my favorite wrestlers at this point.
I can tell. The way you watch Sami Zayn, you're like, oh!
I'm like, oh, Sami! Because he's such a cool dude. I love how he is as a character and how he's portrayed. Any match he's in, even as champion, he's still the underdog. I think him and Cody are really good examples of that, where they finally won something, but yet they're still trying to prove why they deserved it. And I think for Cody, that'll come very naturally for him just because of who he is. But for Sami, he's like the type of I feel like he's like a workhorse. I feel like he's gonna be the guy who's also just gonna be trying to prevent people from taking that title that he's worked so hard and so long for. And especially against Chad Gable, I think is something that's really cool to see. Even we've seen it it's been a couple months now that this feud has been going on. But every time there's always something new. And I will say this too, just to preface real quick, the amount of, like you said, athleticism that these two guys have is insane. Like seeing the suplexes and all these moves. The one move that really kind of made me stand out of my seat, I don't even know what he was. I think he was just trying to intimidate or show off. But Sami Zayn at one point literally kind of jumped on the rope, did a spin, and then landed on his feet or something. I don't exactly remember how it all played out. I have to watch it again. But it was so cool. I was just like, oh my god, what the hell was the point of that? But it was so cool just to see him do it. It looked all smug, and Chad's just like, fuck, man, this guy's kind of cool. But just initial thoughts overall, like I said, great athleticism, great match. They're really going at it. He really wants that title. And the fact that you had both Otis and Maxine Dupree out there too, you kind of figured something was going to happen. She was wearing the boot too. Michael Cole alluded that she only had one foot in a pair and one heel and the other one in a boot because of what happened to her ankle. And then you have Otis, who's just so conflicted about whether or not to turn on Chad Gable or not. And you have Sam, who's basically kind of pleading with him, like, dude, you don't have to listen to what this guy says. You can be your own person, that type of thing. So I think, like you said too, cinema all the way around for a match like this. I think they did a really good job.
Like I said, it's not the first time they faced each other. I mean, last time they were there with Big Bronson Reed, and prior to that, they've had a couple matches on Raw, so it's been developing, but they're just doing so good at carrying the middle of the show. At WrestleMania 40, Sami Zayn was the best match of night one, other than presumably, the tag match. But Sami Zayn and Gunther was just incredible. And, neither of us really were that excited. We weren't going into watching it oh my god, I can't wait for Sami Zayn versus Gunther. But it finished and we're like, that was awesome. That was a great match. And it was the same, ever since Sami Zayn's title defenses, he's just been putting on bangers, man. He's so damn good at storytelling and being that underdog, like you said. And I think, I don't really watch Raw or SmackDown for all 5 hours per week of wrestling that they're putting out, but so I don't know how he's being portrayed on the Daily Show with his title reign. But PLE wise, this man is a champion. I feel some people will forget that there's a US title because Logan Paul's just out and about, but people will know that there is an Intercontinental Champion, the guy that is going to carry the middle of the show. The stars will always have the opening match, the main event, but Sami Zayn is going to be there for the middle of the show put on a solid banger, tell a story, and get the crowd singing his song, cheering for him.
Oh yeah.
Like Mr. PLE, Sami Zayn.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah. That's one of the best ways to describe him. And even then, like, I still feel like there's so much more he's gonna do too, because just because of how he is, like I said, as a character, as a person, and how his mannerisms are too. He's itching for a fight. He's itching to prove himself, and overall, the match, like I said too, was just great. The turning point, though, I know was, at some point it looked like Sami was going to be defeated, but then there's actually a couple turning points there. At one point, you had Chad was kind of distracting the ref, and then you had Maxime holding the championship because Chad, bad luck on Chad's part, he held the title without winning at first, so that came back to bite him. But then Maxine held it at one point and looked like she was going to hit Sami, and we were like, whoa, what are you doing? Fortunately, she did not. Otis, on the other hand, too, also very still conflicted about whether or not to actually include himself in the match, but that all changed when at one point Chad got a little mad at Maxine for trying to interfere, or even just not doing her job, to the point where Sami gets ready to do a Helluva kick, misses him, and almost hits Maxine, to the point where it's kind of a little alarming there. And then at one point too, I think I believe, because I think they're both over the ring at some point, Sami rolls out of a lock that Chad has and ultimately hits Maxine again right on her ankle. Yep. And of course, that's gotta anger Otis right off the bat.
Yup. I think we are boiling to the Otis turn. The Otis turn on Chad Gable, and Otis can go do his thing. He's kind of Maxine Dupri's knight in shining armor. Otis is walking around all big and tough. Hey. He's like, don't touch my girl. And the second Chad Gable, literally, I know he got launched into Maxine Dupri, but you can literally see Chad reach his arm out and kick the arm. I was like, damn. But yeah, I mean, again, I'm becoming a broken record. Just incredible storytelling. We've already buttered up and praised Sami Zayn, but I think just as much praise goes to Chad Gable. He's been a great villain recently. He's so talented, and these two guys just put on bangers, man. They're just so
bangers in the word of the night, yeah.
Good, underrated, and underappreciated wrestlers that are finally getting their moments in big stages, whether it's Clash at the Castle, King and Queen of the Ring, presumably, as I said, Money in the Bank or SummerSlam. I'm excited to see where the program continues, and I wish the best for both Chad and Sami. I think they're just two talents that are on a roll right now, and people are invested in that story. Whether Sami Zayn says it's over or it's not, that is to be determined. But what is not to be determined, because it already happened, is the Women's WWE Championship match, which was a homecoming for Piper Niven, accompanied by Chelsea Green versus the champion Bayley. Going into this one, I was very excited, and I'll let you start with the analysis because I started with Sami Zayn. But sure. I was excited for this match, and I do have to say I wasn't disappointed, but it was it was a good match. It was very good. I wasn't necessarily hyper excited. And I think Bayley even noticed when she was doing her entrance. She came out and everyone was dead silent. And she's like, come on, y'all gotta wake up for me. I hope you guys saved a little bit of hype for me. I do think Bayley just gets, unfortunately, the worst match slots, on the card. She always goes right before the main event. She had the same thing for Mania Night 2. She went right before Roman and Cody. So it's the people just want to get to the main event. And it's not that they don't like Bayley or that they're disrespecting her, but it's just on
the contrary, yeah.
Bad luck. That's your match slot. I think if it was swapped and Bayley and Piper Niven were match 2 right after Cody and AJ, I think the crowd may have been a little bit more into it because they would have had more energy. It's the second match of the night. But Triple H decided to once again put Bayley in the 4 out of 5 slot. And the crowd just didn't feel as into it. Even when Piper Niven came out, you could see Chelsea Green saying, come on, this is her home crowd, get loud.
Wake up.
They just weren't getting loud. I do think it's just, unfortunately, the placement of it. But before I talk about my thoughts on the match, what did you think of this one?
No, I would 100% agree with you there. I think the energy was very like diminished at that point, just because people are waiting for that final match. And yeah, like I said too, even we could tell like the music starts playing, and all of a sudden you see her pop out with the towel, and she's like, I look at like some of the people in the crowd, and they're just kind of looking at her. I'm like, oh
I felt so
no,
bad.
I felt so bad for her. But I mean, the match overall, they were still invested into, which is cool. But overall, I think it was a cool match. I think, of anything, because they mentioned too, this is kind of a stepping stone match, so to speak. So, I don't even like the last one, or well, no, we have to talk about save the other one for later. But because Nia Jax won Queen of the Ring, because she is the Queen of the Ring, she automatically gets a title shot at the Women's Championship. And so, because of that, she was all set to fight Bayley. But then all of a sudden, I remember, I believe it was SmackDown, I think? Or, yeah, I think it was SmackDown. At one point, Piper Niven comes out and crashes in, like, literally, like, arms Bayley in the back and sends her to the ground. And so because of that, she challenges Bayley to a match here at Clash of the Castle. And so therefore, it's a match before a larger match, essentially. That's kind of what this was. And honestly, I didn't expect Bayley to lose at all, just solely because I know she is going to have to fight Nia Jax at that point. I don't know whether it's... Oh, it's at SummerSlam. So that's going to be one of the SummerSlam matches. That's very true. So overall, going into that, knowing that too, I wasn't really expecting any surprises. I think having Chelsea there definitely kind of at least made it a bit more entertaining, because at one point she gets in the ref's face and the ref kicks her out.
Yep.
And then she comes back wearing the luchador mask.
It's Rey Mysterio!
Like, Rey Mysterio, what are you doing there? So I thought that was kind of funny, but like overall, you could tell that Bayley was just going to win this one. And I mean, besides that, there was nothing really as much. Oh, I'll tell you what though, like a couple of matches, whenever like you have Piper like literally land on top of Bayley, I'm like, oh, if I was me, I'd be cooked. I'd tap out. Yep. I'd give up the championship in a heartbeat. I'd be like, all right, I'm done, no more.
Yep, that's the exact point I wanted to bring up, was as we had talked about for King and Queen of the Ring, like how the Nia Jax match felt like it fell flat. It's again the whole case of like the giants, man. Like Piper Niven, unfortunately, is just a giant. You know, that's her like, if you're thinking like high flyer, submissionist, technician, giant, Piper Niven would fall in that giant category. And again, I just think they struggle to put on 5-star matches. Not saying she's not talented or whatnot, but on a Grand PLE, just one-on-one, I feel like it's hard. There's only so many moves you can do, you know? Like, it's a lot harder for Bayley to pull off certain moves just because Piper Niven's a giant. Like, she physically... I can't lift Piper Niven up over my head. I probably can't even lift, like, Bayley up over my head because I'm weak as hell. But point being, you know, it's just so much harder when you have a giant. Like, the only one that could ever, like, consistently pull out Big Show was, like, John Cena. Everyone else is like, my back. Like, it's hard to lift these giants. So then you lose the superplex, you lose this move, you lose that move. And it's like you're just wrestling with such a limited move set. And that's just how this match felt. It was a lot of Bayley, like, a kick to the knee. Let me dive on you. Like, there's just so much Bayley could do. And unfortunately, I already envision that being the same thing for SummerSlam versus Nia Jax. I feel like it's going to be a lot of Bayley just trying to be the David versus the Goliath. So, yeah, I do unfortunately think WWE is doing a little bit too much of these, like, giants in the spotlight. When you have Nia Jax winning a King and Queen of the Ring, followed by Piper Niven in a high-profile match, and then literally in July, we're going to have Nia Jax back in the spotlight. So it's just like giant match, giant match, giant match. Not my personal favorite. I do think, you know, Bayley is going to continue to have a title reign. I don't see her losing it to Nia Jax at SummerSlam, but who knows? Yeah, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, Bayley had a good showing. Again, I think she just continually gets bad luck with WWE. She's not on the posters. She's given the worst match placement and whatnot. But she always will be respected. She's always one of the 4 horsewomen, and people are always going to respect Bayley's name. And, you know, we're always going to still cheer when Bayley comes out at the pre-show or does her entrance, aside from the first couple minutes, apparently, of her entrance this time. But, yeah, I mean, that's really all the input I have for this one. Yeah, you know, neither of us really thought Bayley was going to lose. Even with Piper Niven being in her hometown, it's like, you usually have this gut feeling when you're like, oh shit, like there's a strong chance this person's winning the title, if not guaranteed. And like that gut feeling was just not there for Piper Niven. I think she needs a lot more, you know, storytelling, more experience, more matches. But one development I think And we'll probably talk about this after this last match as like a what's next for WWE, what's the future. Obviously Money in the Bank. I think if there's one strong candidate to win Money in the Bank, and Rivera already made this point in the last podcast, I think Chelsea Green has a high chance, because it could be cool to have Chelsea, you know, have a whole run with the briefcase. Just her kind of character, that like sleazy, cheating type of character. The briefcase is perfect for her, you know. But then if you know, she has a long run with the briefcase, or if she wins, it'd be cool to maybe have like a we're both champion kind of storyline with Piper Niven, you know. So I think that's one development. That's where they might run with this. They might, you know, they gave Piper her moment. Now it's time for Chelsea to have a little bit of spotlight. But we'll come back to that, because I want to talk a little bit about previewing Money in the Bank towards the end of this episode. But before we talk Money in the Bank, we had our main event of the night. The man that was on all the posters, all the promotional material for Clash at the Castle, Drew McIntyre versus All Rise, Damian Priest.
El Campeón.
There's so much to say about this match, and I'll let you start. But we gotta address the obvious disappointment, boys. No broken dreams. No. My dreams are broken. Broken.
He was telling me before the match. He said, "Listen, like, the time is right, the setting is right. It's the hometown kid.
He's in the main event.
Yeah, right. He has to do it. Started out with the bagpipes. That was beautiful at first, but all of a sudden you hear the sword, you hear the shing.
God damn it.
They were cooked. That's kind of how you knew, spoiler alert, that he might have lost because of that, because he didn't play Broken Dreams. However, real quick before I go to my little analysis here, you mentioned that with the previous match, with having a gut feeling of whether or not you know who's going to win or who's not going to win. We had that gut feeling for Bayley was going to win. For this one, we honestly had no idea who was going to win. If it was going to be Priest, it would have made sense, because you want to give him a bit more time with the run of the title of World Heavyweight Champion, potentially having something happen with Judgment Day too.
Yeah.
Or if you give it to Drew, he'd be able to avenge himself after losing at WrestleMania from the cash-in from Damian Priest, and start a really cool run. And it's in Scotland too; it makes the most sense. But I will be honest with you, at the same time, I was like, no, this is too much of a perfect setup for him to win it at home. Therefore, the outcome didn't surprise me as much. But we'll get to the little surprise about that later on. But overall, I think the match was cool. I think these got two big dudes right here. We were talking about whether or not, like, if you're a speedy guy, if you're a flyer, if you're a giant, a technical player or wrestler. These two guys are just big, strong men.
Yep.
And they're going at it. They're basically, they had locked arms. They're throwing each other all over the place. And really entertaining up until there was one point where I had to do a double take because I had no idea what happened. But apparently, I don't even know what move he tried to do. But Drew was on the ground, I think. Yep. And I think Damian was trying to, like, jump off or even jump over or off of the rope or something to him. And his ankle gets, like, twisted with the rope. I looked at it, I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I think at one point, too, even Drew kind of, like, checked up on him for, like, a brief moment. He's like, dude, are you alright? Because, like, he's just dangling there. And I thought at first it was kind of part of it. I mean, they have to kind of play it and make it part of it no matter what happens. But, like, in that moment, I'm just like, oh shit. Like, is he okay? I think it was even Michael Cole that said, like, oh, like, did he broke his ankle or something? And I was actually a bit worried that, like, when he got untangled, you'd see his ankle kind of like that or something. And I was like, oh, that's foul. Fortunately, it did not, but you could tell that it was some high injury, because you see, like, every time he did a move, every time he was trying something, he was putting way less pressure on that one ankle and, like, literally hopping. But at the same time, too, there were moments where he would, like, kick Drew in the face with that ankle or with that leg. I was like, what are you doing? And he's just like, my leg, my leg. So I could definitely tell that is something they weren't expecting to happen, and so they had to adjust, which is cool. I like when adjustments are made like that right on the fly. That shows signs of a really good performer. If you're able to kind of account for something that could happen out of nowhere and basically kind of continue on like nothing happened. So I was really cool to see that. But yeah, overall, really good match. I love seeing like them like fly everywhere, like, all these drops, all that good stuff. The crowd was definitely into the crowd, 100% supporting Drew McIntyre. Good old classic Scotland crowd there. They wanted their boy to win, but fortunately,
he did not.
I'll let you continue there.
He did not win.
Did not
The
win.
second we saw no broken dreams. Our dreams were broken. The ref
Well,
is knocked out. Go
True,
ahead.
yeah. I was gonna say no. Just forgot to mention there. At one point, the ref looked like he got. Well, there's one part where I believe I don't know who was driving who into like the corner, but the ref literally had to dive out of the way and like do like this weird funky move. And I'm like, oh, dude, he's hurt. What the hell was that for? And then the second that happens, I'll let you continue.
Yes. That's the funny part because the ref jumps out the ring. He actually looks legitimately hurt. Like he tore his ACL or something. He's bouncing around. He's like, my leg. And then he gets freaking like thrown into the barrier off like a kick or something. And this ref is out. And Drew reverses out of the what's Priest's move called? End of heaven? No. Whatever it's called. South of Heaven.
It breaks out of it, yeah.
Priest is doing the South of Heaven. Drew reverses. Doc's under. Bounces off the rope. Claymore kick.
Claymore.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The crowd keeps counting. There's no ref. Drew finally calls the ref out.
He's like, ref.
The ref runs down the ramp in dramatic WWE fashion. 1, 2, and the ref stops. By God, it's CM Punk. Oh, Drew McIntyre's arch enemy. The crowd's booing crazy.
I could tell like as soon as like they showed the back angle of the ref, I saw the slick back hair, I saw the red Jordans. I was like, that's CM Punk. Holy shit. As we kind of knew CM Punk was there because apparently he took some pictures with fans in Scotland a couple of days earlier, maybe like a day earlier. But regardless, the surprise was still there. You see out of nowhere, he is in the ref's clothing, a wolf in sheep's clothing, if you will. Yep. I find that really ironic there. That's a great moment for that. And he stops the count at 2. Drew looks up. He's like, what the fuck's going on? And apparently this actually means something in Scotland, or in the UK at least. It's like kind of like the middle finger, apparently. I didn't know that, but
I didn't know that.
I found out. But yeah, and it's ironic too that when you held the 2 up count like that, he's holding it right in Drew's face. And he's smirking, he's smiling, he's cheesing so hard that yet again, CM Punk costs Drew McIntyre a title.
On the
that's
stage.
At his home place, hometown. At the main event, biggest stage ever of the night. Costs him his title.
The creativity here was incredible. One, like camera creativity, that shot from behind CM Punk, like we all assumed Punk was getting involved, but like if you were looking quick, like coming down the ramp, I don't think, I mean, maybe the fans standing right there on the entrance ramp could tell that it was Punk coming down, but I feel like the majority of the arena did not actually put 2 and 2 together that was CM Punk running to the ring. The 1, 2, I feel like people were invested, like, oh shit, like Drew's about to win, and then he stops, and then when he stands up, everyone's like, oh fuck, it's CM Punk. So, but just that camera shot, the way that they captured it, where like you could be invested in the 1, 2 count, not knowing it was Punk, and then slowly realize, like you said, the slick back hair, the smaller details, and be like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Cinema. That was cinema right there. But the other creative thing was, I think just this way to involve Punk was creative. I feel like, at WrestleMania, he was just on commentary, kind of got involved, blah, 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 blah. The easy thing to do would have been to have, when the ref's down, Finn Balor comes out at the rest of Judgment Day, and they just interfere, like almost bloodline style, where it's just a Solo Sikoa thumb, like he just comes from under the ring. But they got creative with this one, man. Like, I did not expect to see Punk as a special guest referee. And the fashion they did it, I thought it was very creative and different, and I liked it, and I think it works. I think Punk and Drew are destined for a match at SummerSlam if Punk's ready by then, and they don't really need the World Heavyweight Championship. I feel like that's going to be enough of a one-on-one match where people are going to be invested in it with or without the title. I think Rivera actually made a really good point about this last episode. He said, this feud is personal. If the title gets involved, it becomes about who gets the title. We feel like it's much more of like a Punk, Drew, no title has to be involved. These guys just hate each other. So I'm not surprised. Also, as you had spoke with Nia Jax having the confirmed match at SummerSlam, it's also confirmed that Gunther will have a match at SummerSlam. So will you really have Drew win the title tonight, only then to presumably lose it to Gunther at SummerSlam. My prediction is Gunther is walking out of SummerSlam as the World Heavyweight Champion.
That's
so
crazy. That would be insane.
I definitely don't. Yeah, we'll see. But I definitely don't think, it was going to be Drew winning and then immediately losing it to Gunther literally 2 months later. So I wouldn't be surprised if Damian Priest carries the title into SummerSlam, loses it to Gunther. That's kind of the timeline for the World Heavyweight title. But what will make it interesting now for future development is the whole Money in the Bank. If someone like Finn Balor wins, how will that all happen? Is Finn going to cash in? Will it be Finn Balor versus Gunther? Or will Finn Balor cash in on Gunther or Damian Priest and Finn Balor leave SummerSlam as champion? Or would someone, a heavy rumor for Money in the Bank, and I'm kind of jumping the gun. We will talk a lot about Money in the Bank later, but this just ties in with the World Heavyweight Championship picture. Another heavy favorite is Jey Uso. Obviously, he's the top babyface on Raw. And since he's on Raw, he would also be in that pool of cashing in on the World Heavyweight Championship. So there's a lot of developments that we will get to in a second. But just to kind of put the bow on the discussion of Drew versus Priest, I thought it was a great match. Obviously, people are going to be hurt and sad that Drew didn't win, even though Punk is so beloved. Not tonight. Punk was not beloved tonight. Punk is enemy number one for Scotland and many WWE fans who just wanted Drew to get his moment. But, he didn't come out with the special entrance. The whole Punk feud has been just overshadowing anything else that Drew's doing. So I feel like he just needs to get this CM Punk story addressed and dealt with before he even thinks about any kind of championship, whether it's the world title, the Intercontinental title, hell, even the Speed Championship. I don't think this man's going to win a title until CM Punk is out of the picture or moved on separate ways. Great match, great creativity again with the finish. But before we wrap up the episode and the full discussion, I do want to talk Money in the Bank, which was a great transition as we've already dug into it. This is coming up on Saturday. I believe it's July 6th. It's 3 weeks from Clash at the Castle. So, gonna come up very soon. Out in Toronto, where I just was for work. I know one of our friends in the community, FTI Matt, is actually going, I believe, to Money in the Bank Toronto. Nice. I believe. Might have to fact check me there. But yeah, I think what I would like, we don't want to talk too much about this card because obviously we'll have a podcast dedicated to it later. But right off the bat, early predictions. Who do you think is winning the women's Money in the Bank? Who do you think is winning the men's Money in the Bank? I just want names. Let's hear it.
All right. Well, real quick, before I give you names, I do want to say, just ultimately Clash at the Castle overall, after looking at these matches, really solid night or even just event of wrestling, and we'd love to see these new storylines develop into. And that's what these are. They're great premium live events, but they're also essentially, like I said too, they're just stepping stones between WrestleMania and SummerSlam, or even more stuff too. So it's cool to see more of that develop. However, and I'm glad you pointed it out too, that you can tell that there's hints and pieces of stuff that could ultimately lead to stuff happening at Money in the Bank. Which, by the way, that's probably one of because I've always been trying to catch up on all stuff that's been happening. I think that's probably one of my favorite PLEs in general, is just Money in the Bank, because it's literally just a whole group of guys or whatever, and girls even, just trying to get that briefcase. They want a chance to cash in that contract. And it was one of the coolest things to see at WrestleMania too, when Damian Priest used his Money in the Bank in order to get the title from Drew. But in terms of this one coming up, in terms of names, I'll tell you what, I didn't even think about it until you mentioned it. I'll do the women's first. So for the women's, I think Chelsea Green would actually be a really cool candidate for that. And like you said too, her character, to give her something like that, to give someone who's so conniving and so mischievous, a free, essentially a free pass to get the championship, I think that's perfect, because she's gonna be ooh, I gotta use this, I gotta figure out when to use it, I gotta do it a perfect moment. It has to be when something crazy's going on. So I think she's a top person to get that. I don't think any other names really pop out to me that could at the current moment. I'll tell you what though, I'd be very interested to see if one of Naomi or Jade or even Bianca gets involved in that too. I'll tell you what, I could kind of see Jade being a part of that too, only to lose. It'd be so funny. Imagine that, because remember, cinema. Holy shit, I just realized. Remember,
He's cooking.
Jade's the first match on Raw after Mania was Jade Cargill versus Chelsea Green. And I remember that because I think she was talking, or Chelsea Green was putting the whole, she's like, you gotta give me, who's gonna be my first opponent? Who wants to fight me? And it's Jade of all people, and Jade easily takes her down, like in a matter of seconds. So I think that's just, maybe I'm making a big stretch there. But that'd be actually absolute cinema if Chelsea gets the Money in the Bank over Jade. I think that would be so funny and so, like, a good kind of circle, a good roundabout way of doing it. And, like I said, it gives her character, like, a really cool, like, thing to use later down the line. So that's for that. I know you just wanted names, but I kind of had a little story back there for that. So that's for women's. For the men's, I'm thinking it'd be two things. I'm either thinking, I really don't know. I kind of think, because I want to say, I don't want to give it to someone in Judgment Day again, because we already had Damian Priest had it. I wouldn't be surprised if someone in the Bloodline got it. Imagine Solo. Imagine the Tribal Chief with Money in the Bank. That would actually be interesting, or one of the other members. But I am thinking it might be Jey Uso, and only because, or a couple of reasons. Mainly one, as I remember, I think it was like a Raw highlight I watched. He actually declared that that's what he's going to do. Is he said, "Y'all want to see main event Jey Uso win the Money in the Bank in Toronto?" And everyone's like, "Yeet." So I think I'd be surprised if he doesn't, but I think Jey Uso is going to be Mr. Money in the Bank this year. I think he's going to pull off a heist, and I think he's going to save him for some sort of big cash.
Hell yeah. Those are two strong picks. Two strong picks. Two picks that I could easily pick. I already had suggested Chelsea Green. But for the women's, there's two women that I feel like really stand out to me as like the likely winners. One of them being Chelsea Green. And then, there's an endless list. It could be Naomi. It could be Bianca. Bianca obviously has such a legendary resume. She's never won a Money in the Bank. I actually read up on that. Yeah. So that could just bolster her stats. There's a couple other candidates out there. Maybe, who knows? Maybe like Mommy's ready and back. I doubt it, but like, you never know. There's so many endless possibilities. But my dead cut pick is actually going to be Tiffany Stratton. I think Tiffy Time is going to actually win the Money in the Bank briefcase. There's, a lot of people that wanted her to win the Royal Rumble. A lot of people that wanted her to win at Backlash against Bayley and Naomi. I think, I don't know. I'm feeling like, Money in the Bank is such a good thing for a heel. And she's definitely a heel, especially just personality and character-wise. So I feel like if it isn't Chelsea Green, I think as a, one-off competitor or someone that can put on a 5-star match, Tiffany is definitely the better wrestler compared to Chelsea. So if they're going more like, no, we want to give it to our future champion in the future of this business, it's got to be Tiffany Stratton. Chelsea would be more of the better story and character and backstage promos, but Tiffany in the long run is going to be more the future of WWE. She's young, she's got the look, she's got the moves, the
she has crazy moves. Oh my
God, like moonsault. So I'm gonna put my pick on Tiffany Stratton with the strong possibility of Chelsea Green. For the men, I feel like the door is just so much more open. Like you said, at the end of the day, the Bloodline's always a strong pick. They could give it to Tama Tonga. They could give it to Solo Sikoa. Who knows? But I do think, again, kind of like Chelsea Green is a strong favorite. I do think Jey Uso is definitely a strong favorite. He feels kind of like the easy pick because it's like you can't go wrong. At the end of the day, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, he's like the number one babyface right now besides Cody Rhodes. Obviously, you're going to give it to Jey Uso. But with, Gunther already a lock for SummerSlam and Damian Priest still world champion, my pick is Finn Balor. I know you said you don't want to pick any Judgment Day guys.
Yeah.
But the reason I'm picking him is because I don't think he'll be a Judgment Day member anymore. I think the whole storyline with Liv Morgan is actually going to boil up to Finn leaving the Judgment Day. He's working with Liv all along. He probably was jealous that Damian Priest kind of became the leader. They've been planting the seeds for a whole Judgment Day implosion. So I think we're getting like a standalone Finn Balor who's been working with a standalone Liv Morgan. He's going to win the briefcase. He'll be the one to inevitably take the title off Priest. But it just gets sticky because you have Gunther as a lock for SummerSlam. So I don't know how it's all going to work with Finn, Damian, and Gunther, that's to be determined. But Finn's my pick. I feel like, again, if you give it to Jay, not a bad choice. People will love it. People love Jey Uso. But it just, I don't know, like, do you let Jay take it off Damian right away, and then it's Jay versus Gunther at SummerSlam, and then Jay loses? Like, it's just, it's a weird spot. I feel like there's more story to be told with Finn winning. But we'll see. I mean, that is 3 weeks away, so we have a lot of builds. By the time this podcast is releasing, if we're late to get this up, Monday Night Raw has already happened. But if we're early, Monday Night Raw is coming up, so we'll definitely have developments from Monday Night Raw. We'll have developments from SmackDown. We have 3 weeks of Raw and SmackDown and NXT to lead up to it with the NXT Battle Royal, which maybe Joe Hendry, who knows?
Maybe.
We'll
I'm
see.
I'm hoping, man.
But there's a lot of developments. As you mentioned earlier, Clash of the Castle, fun pay-per-view. I think of the 3 pay-per-views that have happened since WrestleMania, at least for me, I would tier list them as like Backlash, this one, which was Clash of the Castle, King and Queen of the Ring. King and Queen of the Ring, I feel like, was probably the weakest of the 3. But
I would agree with that.
Clash is definitely solid. But Backlash France, just that crowd, man. That's still untouchable.
I love that, dude.
That's still the number 1 after Mania. So I do think Clash was better than King and Queen of the Ring, but it definitely, that crowd definitely did not match the level of France.
Nope.
So France is still to be beaten at this moment.
Hey, France cheered for Bayley. That's all I'm saying.
This is true. Scotland did not. But that's it. That is it for episode 7. Mista, thank you for not only coming on the podcast, but also watching yet another PLE with me. We'll definitely have to get a Money in the Bank podcast leading up to it coming soon. Probably look out for that in 2 to 3-ish weeks, definitely before the PLE. And you'll know how it goes. The story continues. So we're going to have episodes 8, 9, 10, so on and so forth coming for you guys, because wrestling does not stop. It's going to keep coming. So until the next one, thank you for watching. The story continues. Any final remarks?
Yeah, I think Cody Rhodes had a great match. I think he's a great guy, and I think he's gonna have a great time at the cookout with Trick Williams.
Yeah,
and all the Trick. Hey, and I'm hoping we see Joe Hendry.
Joe Hendry.
He had, apparently at Scotland, he had his face playing on like an ad in Scotland for no reason.
He did
and
not
he's like,
show up.
And apparently, like at like the TNA like show that week, he was like, "Oh, so much stuff's going on, but I want to be here with you guys in Chicago." And I was just like, all right, but it's like, well, all right, we'll see. So, we'll see. I'm hoping he is. I think that would be great. And of all things, yeah, let your story continue as well. Hope your story is continuing just as well as ours.
Yes. The story will continue for the podcast, for Cody Rhodes, for all these WWE storylines and superstars, and for you behind this camera. I think I just made my outro right there on the spot.
Hey, there you go.
That's my new outro. Yeah. The story continues. Might as well work it in with the podcast.
There you go.
So,
there you go.
Until episode 8, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys for all the love on the shorts recently that we've been posting from the podcast. You guys have been, giving all the views to those. Appreciate that. And yeah, we're gonna have plenty of wrestling content coming your way. So until the next one, until Night Sky joins me again, likely for the Money in the Bank predictions one. But if not, definitely a future podcast. Peace out. The story shall continue. I hope your story continues. Let it continue.
Hey, let it continue. Hey.
I love it. This is our new outro. I'm so happy. Cody Rhodes. Stop dogging on Cody Rhodes. That's your final remark. Peace out.
Peace.
Out.